Chapter 10. With Johnny Lawton in a cell awaiting his solicitor, Augustine walked along the narrow corridors towards the records department and his friend, Lou. The two of them had worked together for a number of years, and one thing Augustine knew about Lou was that he was a member of the George Washington Golf Club, but rarely played. Lou was a member because of the facilities. Some of his friends played golf. Lou, being a member, meant he could meet them there for a drink or a meal and a very occasional round. It didn't happen very often, but Lou had the cash to have an almost redundant membership for those rare occasions he was invited. Augustine carried 2 cups of tea. Lou welcomed everyone, every time, but he was even more welcoming when the visitor brought him drinks and/or biscuits. Augustine didn't have the time to buy biscuits, but was more than capable of rustling up a couple of cuppas. "Gus!" Lou exclaimed. He hadn't seen his friend and former colleague for a few weeks, nearing a month. "Lou, how are you?" Augustine replied, placing 2 hot drinks down on the desk between them. He didn't wait to be invited to take a seat. The worn leather chair, as red as a British postbox, was his chosen pew. It creaked as he sat down. Augustine thought about cracking a joke about breaking wind, but thought better of it. He could be called back to interview Johnny Lawton at any time, and Lawton's solicitor was Cal Green, so he needed to be on top of his game. Green was the solicitor for all the lowlifes in town. "I'm good, Gus. How are you? Anything new?" "You're a poet and you don't know it. Yes, I'm good. I've come for a chat. Sorry to be straight to the point, but I might be called away at any moment. Just after some information. Promise the next visit will be a longer one." "Shoot! You're still a member at that golf club?" "Yes. Why?" "Well, we were called out for a body in the car park this morning. The guy had been strangled to death, apparently. Face down overnight. Just looking for a bit of background information, if you have any." "Well, the place has been taken over by a big chain a few years ago. They spent a lot of money on it, building it up from pretty much rack and ruin. I'm sure they won't like a dead body in their money-making machine. Anyone we know?" "The guy was called Mark McManus, but he's not on our system for anything in the past. Not sure if he's mixed up in something. We've got someone in for questioning, suspicion of murder. He played around with Mark last night. Claimed he didn't know the guy. It will be interesting to see what he has to say for himself when his solicitor arrives." "Cal Green?" "Yes. How did you know?" "Just a hunch. Wherever there's a dodgy crim, there's a dodgy solicitor." "You're not wrong there. Do you think this is the guy?" "Well, why would he pretend he didn't know someone who he played golf with the night before? Someone who was found dead the very next morning. And he was packing his car up for a long trip. He had filled just about every spare space. Told us he was owed time off at work. Looked like he was going into hiding to me." "Did he give you a reason he was leaving in a hurry?" Lou asked. "Just said he was going to Scotland for a while. I wonder if that while was long enough for the heat to die down." "Maybe. That club attracts a certain type. There's the business crowd, people who network over a game of golf and 10 pints afterwards. The pro there is a bit of an arsehole, Daniel Godfrey. I've had the pleasure of meeting him this morning." "What did you think?" Lou asked. "No, you first. Why do you call him an arsehole?" "There's just an edge, Gus. He has a certain way about him. It's almost as though he's trying to keep everyone at arm's length. He's got something to hide, that's for sure." "Well, he didn't manage to keep a lecturer at arm's length. He ignored us, so she went behind the reception area and brought him out, grabbed his wrist. He didn't like that, but his demeanor changed when he realized it was a woman manhandling him, or woman handling him, or whatever you should call it. He's definitely got an eye for the ladies as Daniel Godfrey. If you want a lesson, then you stand much more of a chance if you're a female. More chance still if you're under 50 and pretty much nailed on if you want putting lessons. That way he can have his hands all over you." Is that why your golf game never got any better? Maybe, but those are the kind of lessons I could do without. Keep an eye on him, Gus. He's a slippery one. Thanks, Lou, and I promise the next conversation will be with biscuits, and for longer. How about beers, and away from here? Lou asked. Deal.